The year was 1584, a cold battlefield, mist rolling across the earth like restless spirits. A samurai named Renji stood frozen, not because of fear, but because of something far more dangerous: self-doubt. Warriors charged past him, steel clashed, arrows sliced through the sky like angry birds. But Renji remained still, his sword heavy in his hand, as if the weight of every doubt he'd ever carried had fused into the blade itself. He wasn't facing an enemy. He was facing the voice inside him that whispered, "You're not ready. You're not strong enough. You will fail." And the cruelest part, Renji believed it. For a brief moment, he felt the world shrink, the noise fade, and the battlefield disappear, until only his doubt remained. That day, the enemy didn't defeat him. His mind did. And this moment of paralysis, became the beginning of a transformation that would one day erase self-doubt from his body, his breath, and his destiny. Welcome to Discipline Dojo. Subscribe if you choose to walk the path where weak identities die and the warrior within is reborn. Chapter 1. When self-doubt becomes a shadow. After the battle, Renji felt shame burn inside him like a hidden wound. He wasn't weak. He wasn't unskilled. But he didn't trust himself. Self-doubt had become his shadow, always beside him, always whispering, always pulling him backward. It followed him from the training yard to the quiet wooden corridors of the dojo, to the riverbank where he once practiced his forms with confidence. But now, every reflection in the water felt like a stranger staring back. He questioned everything: his worth, his talent, his future. When other samurai trained, he watched from a distance, afraid to join them, afraid that one mistake would confirm everything the ghost inside him whispered. He compared himself to other warriors, to their speed, their precision, their courage. Every comparison cut another slice from his confidence. Every silent apology carved another scar inside him. He shrank his own voice. He hid his own potential. He moved like a warrior, wearing borrowed armor. And the worst part? Renji believed the enemy lived outside him, when in truth the enemy was inside. 1,000 battles could not harm him as much as the single story he told himself every day: "I am not enough." His master Kenshiro watched this decline without interfering. A true teacher does not interrupt a student until the student is ready to hear the truth without breaking. One evening, as Renji sat alone cleaning a blade he no longer believed he deserved to hold, Kenshiro approached him quietly. "The greatest warrior," he said, "is the man who defeats the voice that says he cannot." The word sank into Renji like a slow, deep cut. He realized he wasn't lacking strength. He was lacking clarity, a way to fight the invisible enemy inside his own mind. And that night, Kenshiro decided Renji was finally ready for a secret technique known only to the most disciplined samurai. Chapter 2. The method no master was allowed to teach. Kenshiro took Renji into a quiet room, lit by a single lantern. The flame flickered against the old wooden walls, casting shadows that trembled like spirits from another time. It was a room Renji had passed countless times, but never entered. A room reserved for truths that burden the soul. In the center stood a wooden chest, darkened by age, reinforced with iron bands, as if it contained something too powerful to be trusted in the open world. Kenshiro knelt beside it, with a reverence Renji had never seen. He touched the lid gently, almost sorrowfully, as if he were about to awaken a sleeping demon. "This scroll," Kenshiro whispered, was not meant for many eyes. It has ended more weakness than any sword, and broken more weak minds than any enemy. Renji felt cold air crawl across his skin. The weight of the moment pressed on his mind like armor. Kenshiro opened the chest. The hinges groaned like an ancient warrior rising from his grave. Inside lay a single scroll, old, torn, edges burnt, stains of time etched into its fibers. Kenshiro unrolled it slowly. The title read, "The Method That Kills the Ghost Within." The lantern light dimmed, as if bowing to the words. Renji's breath tightened. Something inside him recognized the danger and the necessity hidden inside that ancient ink. Kenshiro's voice lowered. "This technique is not given to the young, because it destroys the soft part of the mind. Once you learn it, you will never again hide behind excuses, or behind the man you used to be." Renji bowed his head. "Master, I am already less than the man I want to become." A long silence filled the room, a silence so heavy it felt like a test. Finally, Kenshiro nodded. "Then listen carefully." He touched the scroll. "Self-doubt is not weakness, it is confusion, the mind divided against itself. You want to act, but the ghost inside you pulls you back." He leaned closer. "This method ends that division. Forever." Then he revealed the core law, the sentence that would rewrite Renji's fate. A samurai acts first, the mind adjusts later. Those words struck Renji like a blade drawn in the dark. This was no technique. It was a rebirth, and it would become Renji's new identity. Chapter 3. The First Test. The Edge of Fear. Kenshiro took Renji to a wooden platform above a deep gorge. The path leading there was narrow, lined with twisted pine trees that creaked softly in the night wind. Every step Renji took felt heavier, as if the earth itself knew he was walking towards something that would change him forever. Moonlight cut through the fog like a blade. The river roared far below, its sound echoing against the cliffs like the distant growl of an ancient beast. "Jump," Kenshiro said. Renji's breath caught. The single word fell into the night like a command from the heavens. Renji froze. "Master, I could die." Kenshiro replied, "It is not death you fear. It is the story your mind creates about it." Renji felt his heart pounding so loudly, he wondered if the mountain could hear it. His palms were sweating, though the night was cold. His legs shook, not from the height, but from the storm inside his chest. Kenshiro stepped closer. "The hesitation you feel is not you. It is the ghost, a parasite that feeds on every pause, every memory of failure, every lie your mind whispers." Renji looked down again. The distance seemed even greater now. His mind began weaving stories of broken bones, of drowning, of humiliation. Each story grew sharper, louder, more convincing. Kenshiro's voice cut through them like a sword. "You kill the ghost by killing the pause." The words struck Renji deeper than any blade. Kenshiro lifted a finger. Thought, movement, intention, action, decision, execution. No permission, no second thought, no internal debate. Renji felt the ghost rising. Panic, excuses, the familiar tightening in his chest. But this time, he refused to listen. He didn't give himself time to think. He jumped. For the first time in his life, his mind did not win. In the cold rush of air, In the moment his feet left the edge, Renji felt something break. Not in his body, but in the soul his doubt had built around him. He surfaced in the water gasping, not from fear, but from freedom. Chapter 4. The Forbidden Samurai Method. Kenshiro placed 3 stones before Renji. Each stone was carved with a symbol, old characters that had been etched by monks centuries ago. They weren't decorative. They were reminders of the warriors who had used this method to reshape their spirits and silence their inner ghosts. "These stones," Kenshiro said, "represent the 3 cuts that sever self-doubt." Renji knelt before them, feeling the weight of something ancient pressing on his chest. Kenshiro pointed to the first stone. 1. The strike without permission. When a task appears, you move instantly. Kenshiro's voice was firm, almost sharp. You have lived your entire life asking permission from your mind. Should I do this? What if I fail? What if I am not good enough? Every question is a doorway the ghost walks through. He leaned closer. Permission is where self-doubt is born. Renji felt those words cut deep. He had spent years waiting to feel ready, waiting for courage, waiting for the right moment. But the right moment had never come. Kenshiro continued, "A samurai does not wait for readiness. He creates readiness by moving. Instant movement destroys hesitation." Renji realized that hesitation wasn't a decision. It was a disease. 2. The death of the second thought. Kenshiro tapped the second stone. The first thought is instinct. The second thought is fear. The third thought is the ghost. Renji closed his eyes. He knew this pattern all too well. The first thought, strike. The second thought, what if I miss? The third thought, don't do it. You'll embarrass yourself. Kenshiro spoke calmly. The longer you think, the weaker you become. He drew a thin line in the dirt with his finger. Your instinct is pure. Your second thought corrupts it. Your third thought kills it. Renji opened his eyes, feeling a tremor of truth rise inside him. To obey only the first thought was to obey his true self. 3. The identity of already capable. Kenshiro rested his hand on the final stone. You don't act to become the warrior. You act because you already are. Renji felt something shift inside his chest, as if a locked door had just cracked open. Kenshiro continued, You have lived as a man trying to earn worth, trying to justify his existence, trying to prove himself. But worth is not earned. It is uncovered. He stood and looked toward the distant mountains. When a warrior believes he is unfinished, he hesitates. When he believes he is already forged, he acts. Identity first, action second, confidence third. This is the order that erases self-doubt forever. Renji bowed his head to the 3 stones, because he understood. These were not just teachings. They were a new way of being. Chapter 5. When Renji broke the ghost. Renji trained relentlessly. Days blurred into nights, and nights became silent battlegrounds where he confronted the voice inside him. Every sunrise felt like a test. Every tuck felt like a confrontation with the ghost that had once ruled his life. When the morning bell rang, he moved before the old voice could whisper, "Sleep more." There were moments when fatigue wrapped around him like chains. Moments when the floor felt warm, the air felt heavy, and his mind tempted him with comfort. But Renji no longer gave comfort time to negotiate. Before the thought could form, his feet were already on the ground. When a task appeared, he acted before the ghost could speak. Fetching water, cutting wood, cleaning the dojo floor, carrying stones up the hill. None of it was glamorous. None of it was heroic. But every action, no matter how small, was a battle fought and won against hesitation. Each time he moved instantly, the ghost inside him weakened. Each time he interrupted the old stories, the ghost lost another piece of its power. When an opportunity came to spar, he stepped forward without thinking. This was the biggest change of all. Once Renji would stand at the edge of the practice yard, watching others spar, imagining every possible way he might fail. Now, before those thoughts even surfaced, he was already tying his headband and stepping into the circle. Action had replaced doubt. Motion had replaced fear. Clarity had replaced noise. Action became his shield. Instant movement became his weapon. Silence became his mind. The silence was not emptiness. It was presence. A deep stillness that dissolved every anxious thought before it could take shape. One morning, Kenshiro handed him a wooden sword. "Strike that post." Renji didn't aim, didn't analyze, didn't calculate. He struck. The sound echoed through the cold air, clean and sharp. The sound of a man acting without permission, without hesitation, without division inside his own mind. Kenshiro studied him quietly, then nodded. "You are no longer two men, the one who wants to act and the one who stops him. You have become one." Renji felt something loosen inside him, a knot that had lived in his chest for years. The ghost inside him had finally starved, not because Renji fought it, but because he stopped feeding it. He understood something profound. Self-doubt does not die through courage. It dies through speed, through action faster than thought, through movement before fear can open its mouth. Renji was no longer a man trying to believe in himself. He had become a man who had nothing left to doubt. Chapter 6. The Warrior's Principle. Remove or be removed. Kenshiro explained, "Self-doubt is not conquered by force. It is conquered by removal." These words echoed through Renji's mind long after they were spoken. He had always believed strength meant adding more courage, more confidence, more willpower. But Kenshiro's teachings revealed a truth far older than any sword technique. It is not the weight you carry that breaks you. It is the clutter you refuse to let go of. Remove hesitation. Remove negotiation. Remove internal debate. A samurai's mind is a clean battlefield. Only action and truth remain. Kenshiro walked with Renji along the mountainside as he continued teaching. "When a warrior is young," he said, "he fills his mind with noise. He tries to remember every lesson, every warning, every fear, every expectation. That noise becomes armor that doesn't protect. It suffocates." He paused, picking up a fallen leaf. "Clarity," he whispered, "is created not by adding more, but by removing what does not belong." Renji listened, the wind carrying the master's words like ancient scripture. He learned the principle. When the mind has no place to store doubt, doubt cannot survive. It was a concept so simple and yet so brutal in its honesty. Renji began living by subtraction. He removed the habit of thinking before moving. He removed the need to predict outcomes. He removed the fear of judgment. He removed the fantasy of perfection. He removed the mental stories that had shaped him into a smaller man. Less thinking, less worrying, less comparing, less questioning, more moving, more doing, more acting, more being. With each removal, Renji felt lighter, not physically, but spiritually, mentally, emotionally. The weight he carried wasn't his sword. It was his own hesitation. Now that weight was fading, Kenshiro demonstrated the principle with a simple exercise. "Draw your sword," he said. Renji drew it. "Now sheathe it." He did. Again. Faster, with no thought. Renji repeated the movement until he understood. The purpose was not mastery of the sword, but mastery of the mental space between intention and execution. Clarity replaces self-doubt, the way sunlight replaces darkness, not by fighting it, but by existing. And Renji finally understood. The man who removes the unnecessary reveals the unstoppable. Chapter 7. The Return of the True Self. Renji's transformation wasn't just skill, it was identity. He no longer walked with lowered shoulders. He no longer questioned every move. He no longer apologized for existing. It was as if each step he took reshaped the ground beneath him. His presence had changed, not louder, not aggressive, but grounded, centered, unshakable. The hesitation gap was gone, so the ghost had nowhere to hide. People in the dojo noticed before Renji did. Young trainees who once overlooked him now stepped aside respectfully when he passed. Older warriors who once ignored him now studied him, as if trying to understand what invisible fire had begun burning inside him. But Renji did not walk like a man seeking approval. He walked like a man who had stopped negotiating with himself. Renji realized something profound. The man he thought he was only the man his doubt allowed him to be. That false self, the timid one, the hesitant one, the one who always questioned his worth, had been nothing but a story shaped by fear. His real self had been buried under years of stories, shame, and hesitation. Every moment he had once labeled as failure had become a brick in the wall around his spirit. Every memory of not enough had become a chain around his potential. But the forbidden method had done something that no amount of prayer, meditation, or encouragement ever could. It starved the ghost and revealed the man beneath. Through the forbidden method, he dug that true self out, not by searching inward for truth, but by acting outward with certainty. He learned the greatest warrior lesson. You do not think your way into a stronger identity. You act your way into one. Each instant action was a hammer blow shattering the shell of the man he used to be. Each unhesitating movement was a sword stroke, cutting ties to old fears. And slowly, with each small victory over hesitation, his true self returned. Not perfect, not loud, not fearless, but clear. A man who moves, a man who decides, a man who trusts himself completely. And clarity is far more powerful than confidence. Chapter 8. A samurai never hesitates. On the final day of training, Kenshiro said, "Hesitation is the luxury of an undisciplined mind." A cold morning wind swept across the mountain as the two stood overlooking the valley. Below them, the world looked peaceful. Rice fields, distant villages, rivers glimmering under the young sun. But to Renji, the world felt entirely new, as if he were seeing it for the first time. Kenshiro continued, "A warrior does not wait to feel ready. He moves, and readiness arrives after." He walked a few steps ahead, his footsteps slow, deliberate, grounded, as if each one carried the weight of centuries of wisdom. Most men, Kenshiro said, live at the mercy of their thoughts. They wait for permission, for clarity, for the perfect moment, and in that waiting, their lives disappear. He turned toward Renji. A samurai creates the moment by acting. Renji felt those words settle deep in his bones. Erase the gap, and you erase the ghost. The ghost, that presence that once lived in his hesitation, now felt distant, weak, almost unreal, like a bad dream fading in morning light. Renji didn't feel the same kind of confidence other warriors bragged about. He didn't feel invincible. He didn't feel superior. What he felt was stillness, a quiet mind, a steady heart, a clear path. Renji walked down the mountain no longer searching for confidence, but carrying it in every breath, not because he felt strong, but because he no longer allowed his mind to create weakness. He understood now that strength wasn't something you feel, it was something you choose, in the space between thought and action. Hesitation had been a doorway where the ghost lived. By sealing that doorway with immediate action, Renji had removed the ghost's home entirely. And so with each step down the mountain path, he felt lighter, freer, more himself than he had ever been. Villagers he passed noticed a new presence in him, not louder, but sharper, not intimidating, but undeniable. For the first time in his life, Renji wasn't trying to become someone. He was someone. The forbidden method had rewritten him, not into a perfect man, but into a decisive one. And a decisive man fears nothing, because he knows hesitation, not failure, was always the true enemy. Now it's your turn. Think of one thing you've been hesitating on today. A message, a task, a dream, a responsibility. Perform it within 5 seconds. No pause, no permission, no ghost. Because every second you wait, the ghost grows stronger. And every second you act, the ghost starves. The smallest action can rewrite who you believe you are. The simplest decision can shift your identity. A warrior is not built through grand victories, but through tiny acts of courage repeated without hesitation. So choose your action. Move now. Become the warrior your future self is waiting for. Comment below. Today, I kill the ghost by doing. Subscribe to Discipline Dojo and join the warriors who refuse to let self-doubt decide their lives, the ones who live with clarity, movement, and inner silence.